Some galleries display art. Others collect souls. Tonight, the portraits are watching. Marcus clipped his radio to his belt and began his evening rounds through the Meridian Gallery. Tonight was different, a private viewing for one of their most exclusive collectors, scheduled for 9 p.m. The gallery would stay open late, which meant Marcus would be alone with the art until then. The portraits lined the walls like silent witnesses. Classical paintings mostly, oil on canvas, heavy gold frames, subjects from centuries past. Aristocrats with powdered wigs, merchants in dark coats, ladies in flowing gowns. Their eyes seemed to follow tradition, painted to engage the viewer. Art school technique, Marcus reminded himself. Nothing more. He paused before a particularly striking piece. A young woman in a blue dress, her gaze direct and penetrating. The placard read Lady Catherine Whitmore, 1847. Her dark eyes held an intensity that made Marcus uncomfortable. Too real, somehow. Moving on, he checked the climate controls, tested the alarm sensors, verified each emergency exit. Standard procedure. The gallery felt different at night, shadows pooling in corners despite the carefully positioned lighting. His footsteps echoed against the hardwood floors, the only sound in the hushed space. When he turned the corner into the west wing, something made him stop. The sensation of being watched. Not unusual in a room full of portraits, but this felt deliberate. Marcus glanced over his shoulder. Lady Catherine's painting was still visible from this angle, and her eyes seemed to track his movement. He took a step to the left. Her gaze appeared to follow. A step to the right. Same thing. Trick of the light, he told himself. Painters were skilled at creating that illusion. The Mona Lisa was famous for it. He'd read about it somewhere. The way artists positioned pupils and irises to create the effect of constant observation. But as he continued his rounds, the feeling intensified. Not just Lady Catherine now, but others. A stern-faced judge in the North Corridor. Twin children in matching blue outfits. An elderly gentleman with a silver beard. Each time Marcus looked, their painted eyes seemed locked onto him. He checked his watch. 7:30. Still over an hour before the collector arrived. The gallery's silence felt heavier now, pressing against his eardrums. Even the building's usual settling sounds, the whisper of air through vents, the distant hum of security systems, seemed muted, as if the space itself was holding its breath. Marcus completed his circuit and returned to the security desk near the main entrance. The monitor showed empty corridors, motion sensors, all green. Everything normal. He poured coffee from his thermos, the liquid steaming in the cool air. When he looked up, Lady Catherine was staring directly at him from across the room. Not at the camera, not at some fixed point on the wall behind him. At him. Her painted lips seemed to hold the faintest suggestion of a smile. Marcus blinked hard, rubbed his eyes. When he looked again, her expression remained unchanged. But something was different. Something about the angle of her head, perhaps, or the way the shadows fell across her face. He told himself it was fatigue. Too much overtime, not enough sleep. The mind played tricks in quiet spaces, especially at night. Artists designed these paintings to engage viewers, to create the illusion of life and awareness. But as he sat at his desk, sipping coffee that had already gone cold, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't alone in the gallery, and that something was waiting for 9 o'clock to arrive. By 8:15, Marcus could no longer pretend it was his imagination. He'd tested it systematically, walking from one end of the gallery to the other while watching the portraits from his peripheral vision. Every single painted figure tracked his movement. Not just Lady Catherine, all of them. The judge, the children, the merchant family in the East Wing. Even the abstract pieces seemed to shift and writhe when he wasn't looking directly at them. Marcus stood in the center of the main hall, slowly rotating in place. 23 pairs of eyes followed his movement in perfect synchronization. When he stopped, they stopped. When he moved, they tracked him like security cameras. His hands were shaking now. He pressed them against his thighs, trying to steady himself. This wasn't possible. Paintings didn't move. Oil and canvas couldn't see or think or watch. The sound of the front door's electronic lock disengaging made him jump. The collector was early. Dr. Helena Voss entered with the measured steps of someone accustomed to valuable things. Mid-60s, silver hair pulled back severely, wearing an expensive black coat despite the evening's warmth. She carried a leather portfolio and moved through the gallery like she owned it. "Good evening, Marcus." Her voice was crisp, professional. "Everything secure?" "Yes, ma'am." Marcus tried to keep his voice steady. "Dr. Voss, I need to mention something. The paintings tonight, they seem unusual." She paused, one eyebrow arching. "Unusual how?" "The eyes, they follow movement. All of them. It's not normal." Dr. Voss smiled, the expression not reaching her eyes. "Art is meant to engage the viewer, Marcus. The masters understood how to create that connection. This is different." Marcus gestured toward Lady Catherine's portrait. "Look at her. Really look." Dr. Voss turned toward the painting. Lady Catherine's painted gaze shifted immediately to meet hers, the movement subtle but unmistakable. The lector's smile widened. "Magnificent, isn't she?" Dr. Voss moved closer to the portrait. "Catherine has always been one of my favorites. So attentive." Marcus felt cold spreading through his chest. "You see it too, the movement." "Of course I see it." Dr. Voss opened her portfolio, revealing what looked like architectural drawings. "That's rather the point." She spread the papers across a nearby bench. "Not architectural drawings, floor plans of the gallery, with measurements, and notes in the margins about sight lines and observation angles." "I don't understand," Marcus said, though a terrible understanding was beginning to form. "You will." Dr. Voss checked her watch. "Your shift ends at midnight, doesn't it? That gives us plenty of time." "You're Mickey worry." "Time for what?" But Dr. Voss wasn't looking at him anymore. She was looking at the paintings, and they were looking back. Not at Marcus now, at her, as if awaiting instructions. The temperature in the gallery seemed to drop 10 degrees. Marcus's breath came in short puffs, visible in the suddenly frigid air. The painted figures had definitely shifted now, heads turned more fully toward the center of the room, eyes bright with an intelligence that had nothing to do with artistic technique. "The collection has been incomplete, Dr. Voss said conversationally. "We've needed someone with your qualities, someone observant, someone who notices details." Marcus backed toward the main entrance, but his feet felt heavy, sluggish. The radio on his belt crackled with static, though no one was transmitting. "The exit won't work," Dr. Voss said without turning around. "Not until we're finished." The painted eyes followed his retreat, unblinking and patient. Waiting. Marcus reached for the door handle. His fingers passed through it like mist. He stared at his hand, solid and real, but unable to grasp the metal. The handle existed, gleaming under the gallery lights, but somehow occupied a different space than his reaching fingers. Like trying to grab something behind glass. "Don't waste your energy." Dr. Voss was studying her floor plans, making small marks with a silver pen. "The gallery has accepted you. There's no leaving now." "What are you talking about?" Marcus spun around, panic rising in his throat. "What is this place?" The paintings had moved. Not subtly now, but openly. Lady Catherine's head had turned completely toward him, her painted hand now resting against the inner edge of her frame as if testing its boundaries. The judge leaned forward slightly, his stern expression focused with predatory intent. The twin children were whispering to each other, their painted lips moving in silent conversation. "It's a collection," Dr. Voss said. "A very special collection. They were all like you once, observant souls who noticed what others missed. Security guards, museum workers, gallery assistants. People who spend their time watching, cataloging, protecting." Marcus backed against the wall, but even that felt insubstantial now. His shoulder should have met solid surface. Instead, he felt a strange give, as if the wall was becoming permeable. "You can't do this," he whispered. "I'm not doing anything." Dr. Voss gestured to the portraits. "They choose. They always choose. And they've chosen you." "Nice." Lady Catherine's hand pressed against her frame, the painted surface bulging outward like stretched canvas. Her fingers emerged first, pale, delicate, but undeniably real. She was pulling herself forward, pushing through the barrier between art and reality. Others began to follow. The judge's arm extended from his portrait, reaching toward Marcus with grasping fingers. The children giggled, their laughter a sound like breaking glass, as their small hands pressed against their frame's edges. "Why?" Marcus's voice was barely audible. "Why me?" "Because you see," Dr. Voss said. "Really see. Most people look at art and see only what they expect. But you noticed the watching. You paid attention to the details that didn't belong. That awareness, that vigilance. It's exactly what the collection needs." The wall behind Marcus was definitely giving way now. He could feel himself sinking into it, the painted surface cool against his back. His security uniform began to feel strange against his skin, the fabric stiffening, becoming less flexible. In the reflection of the gallery's windows, he caught a glimpse of himself. His skin was taking on a waxy quality. His eyes were brightening, becoming too vivid, too focused. The flesh around his face was flattening slightly, losing dimension. "The transformation doesn't hurt," Dr. Voss assured him. "Most find it quite peaceful. You'll have eternity to watch, to observe, to protect the collection. No more loneliness during night shifts. You'll have company." Lady Catherine had pulled her entire arm free of her frame now. She reached toward Marcus, her painted fingers extended in invitation. Her smile was gentle, understanding. Behind her, the others watched with expressions of anticipation and welcome. "Join us," she said, her voice carrying the dust of centuries. "Help us watch. Help us wait." Marcus felt the wall embrace him fully, pulling him backward into its depths. His body was becoming part of the architecture, part of the art itself. The last thing he saw was Dr. Voss rolling up her floor plans, preparing to leave. "The next shift starts at 6 a.m., she said conversationally. "Someone new will be here soon." Then the frame closed around him, and Marcus became the watcher. The gallery was quiet again. Marcus found himself standing in a place that was both the main hall and somehow beyond it. He could see the space as he always had, hardwood floors, carefully positioned lighting, pristine white walls. But now, he also saw the layers beneath. The network of watching eyes, the web of attention that connected every portrait to every other. He was part of it now. Lady Catherine stood beside him, no longer confined to her frame. In this between space, she was fully dimensional, her blue dress rustling with each movement. The other figures moved freely too, the judge discussing security protocols with a Victorian gentleman, the twin children playing a silent game that involved counting visitors. "It takes some adjustment," Catherine said gently. "But you'll find the work rewarding. We protect this place. We ensure it continues." Marcus tried to speak, but found his voice had changed. It carried the same dusty quality as hers, as if filtered through layers of oil and varnish. "What happens now?" "Now we wait," she said. "And we watch. Someone will come to investigate your disappearance. Then someone new will be hired. We'll observe them, learn their patterns, understand their nature. If they're suitable." She didn't need to finish. Marcus understood. Time moved differently here. He watched the sun rise through the gallery's windows, watched morning visitors arrive to view the collection. They paused before the portraits, admiring the artwork, never noticing the extra figure that had appeared overnight in the East Wing. Marcus's portrait showed him in his security uniform, radio clipped to his belt, keys in hand. The placard beneath read, "Night Watchman, 2024. Visitors commented on the realistic quality of his eyes, how they seemed to follow movement around the room. If only they knew. At 6 a.m., the new security guard arrived. David something. Marcus hadn't caught the last name. Young, eager, taking the job seriously. He walked the same routes Marcus had walked, checked the same systems, stood at the same desk. For the first few days, David noticed nothing unusual. The portraits were just portraits, the shadows just shadows. Marcus watched him with growing understanding of how the process worked. The collection was patient. They had all the time in the world. On the fourth night, David paused before Lady Catherine's portrait. "Weird," he muttered, studying her painted features. "Your eyes are really lifelike." Catherine's smile didn't change, but Marcus felt the shift in the gallery's attention. The beginning of focus. The start of selection. David continued his rounds, but now he glanced over his shoulder more frequently. He began testing the portrait's gazes, moving from side to side to see if the eyes followed. By the end of the week, he was convinced something was wrong. Marcus wanted to warn him, tried to project thoughts of escape, of running, of never coming back. But his painted lips could only smile their eternal smile. His eyes could only watch with their endless vigilance. "Doctor Voss will be visiting next Friday," Catherine mentioned during one of their between-time conversations. "Private viewing. David seems promising." "Andre, Marcus watched the young guard check his watch, count the minutes until his shift ended. He remembered that feeling, the weight of observation, the creeping certainty that something was fundamentally wrong. But David would stay. They always stayed. The gallery wouldn't let him leave once the process began. And Marcus would watch it happen, as he would watch everything that happened here for all the centuries to come. The perfect observer, the eternal guard. The election was growing.